This meeting will now be called to order. Before we begin, I do need to announce that if you are in the council chambers, you must be seated to remain inside of the chambers. If you cannot find a seat, then you will have to go out to the mezzanine until a seat is available for you. Will all members of the council as well as the public please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. The invocation this evening will be offered by Minister State Representative Johnny Shaw.
Very much for this blessed privilege to stand and to call upon your holy name. We thank you for the blessings of this day, the new mercies that you've given us this morning, and the good graces that you bestowed upon us. We come now to ask your presence, your favor upon each member of this council. We know that there are many members, but one body, and God, we're praying that in all they say and do, they will do it to your glory and to your will. And then we ask that you would bless those who are here tonight. For whatever reason, God, we pray favor upon them, that you would have them to understand that you are always a God that's on our side. We love you and we thank you for this privilege and for this opportunity. It is within the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Without objection.
Right. I wouldn't run, but thank you. All right. Good.
Thank you. Again, everyone must be seated that remains in the council chambers. Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present during the course of the meeting. Is there a motion to adopt for the adoption of the minutes of the meeting of January 20th, 2015? It's been properly moved and seconded, and the minutes stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will have two presentations this evening, and our first presentation will be offered by Councilman Charlie Tigert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask Lawrence Jackson and his family to come forward, along with some very distinguished members of Metro government. You may have noticed an article in the paper a month ago, the retirement of Lawrence Jackson. And I got to thinking about the face of Metro government and what the citizens of this county think of when they think of Metro government. And I said, I hope when they think of Metro government, they don't think of Billy Lynch. I hope and pray they think of people like Lawrence Jackson. I'm going to read just one sentence of a very lengthy presentation and then ask Sharon Smith and Veronica Frazier to really carry the weight on this one. Lawrence Jackson was hired after serving part-time with Metro Beautification as a volunteer and a commissioner. He ended up chairing the commission. He is a true leader, motivating and inspiring citizens to clean up and make a difference in Nashville's neighborhoods. He has helped organize literally thousands and thousands of residents over the years and focusing their efforts and participation in neighborhood cleanups and beautification projects that benefit the entire community. He is a shining example of a remarkable, good, and dedicated public servant who contributed to the community. Veronica?
Thank you, Councilman Tigert. Come on up here with me. I had the tremendous pleasure of supervising Lawrence Jackson during my 8-year-plus tenure at Metro Public Works with Metro Beautification. And as we all know, Lawrence Jackson has cleaned up and worked in every neighborhood throughout this city, improving the quality of life for all of us, for our citizens and our visitors. He really is, in his service and commitment to keeping Nashville clean and beautiful, Lawrence is quite simply without peer. And for those of us who are in the business of public service, Lawrence is the standard bearer for what commitment and dedication to the job means. And collectively speaking, he makes us all look good every single day Lawrence goes to work.
Thank you.
Lawrence, it was my pleasure to work with you. It is my pleasure to know you. I've learned a great deal from you. I thank you for all you've done for this city, for all you did for Metro beautification, and I just love you, Lawrence.
Oh, you too.
You can't go away that quickly. I am pleased to have spent the last year and a half working with Lawrence. And one thing I can assure all of you council folks and the people here, Lawrence Jackson has touched the life of every Davidson County resident in one way or another by helping to organize cleanups when he first started as a beautification commissioner, to working for Metro Beautification, working with neighborhoods, organizing cleanups, and most recently running our community service program. Lawrence, I'm proud to say that today was the first day, or that we picked up the most tons than we have since you retired.
Thank you.
And all of the folks at Public Works love you, miss you, and hope that we can do half the job that you did, because that, I hope, will be enough. Thank you so much.
Councilman Tigert, we are not going to get by this evening without letting Mr. Lynch have a few words here.
John, I'll make it short, and I won't try to say anything negative to you. One thing I do want to point out to all the council people and to the public that's watching. In 2010, Public Works in this city faced a dramatic situation during the flood of this city. And during that time, Lawrence and Veronica, through their efforts, organized a truly public service crew that went behind the big cleanup trucks and went in every neighborhood in this city that was facing devastation. The trucks would pick up debris. Here comes Lawrence and the volunteers behind to pull that debris back out. Here come the trucks again. This man worked numerous hours and days, along with many other staff, because of their true love for this city. And thank you, and I appreciate Lawrence's work.
Lawrence, on the behalf of a grateful community, we honor you for your work, and we hope you have a great retirement. We present you the certificate, and the microphone is yours.
Just wanted to say that during this past 23 years, I truly have enjoyed working with members of this city council. It's good to see a lot of old friends here and faces and people that actually did participate in the cleanup projects that we did during this period of time. I do want to thank the mayor, all the council members, thank Mr. Lynch, Veronica, Sharon, and all the people, lives that I touched and that touched my life. And I'm glad my family is here and all my friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll now have a second presentation by Council Lady Karen Bennett.
Come on around. Good evening. We are here on Resolution 2015-1367. Whereas the World Spay Day is held annually in February to shine a spotlight on the benefits of spaying and neutering and is a way to save the lives of companion animals, community spay or feral cats, and street dogs. When you spay and neuter your pet, you make your pet healthier and help solve the tragic problems to get pet overpopulation. Whereas pets provide companionship to 68% of the households in the U.S., whereas 3 million healthy and adoptable cats and dogs are put down in the animal shelters each year due to a lack of critical resources and public awareness. I'm going to repeat that again. Nearly 3 million healthy and adoptable cats and dogs are put down in animal shelters each year due to lack of critical resources and public awareness. Whereas literally 90% of pets living in poverty and 98% of community cats are unaltered. And whereas spaying and neutering has been shown to dramatically reduce the number of animals who are put down in animal shelters. And whereas programs exist to assist with the cost of spaying or neutering pets living in poverty and community cats. Whereas veterinarians, national and local animal protection organizations, and private citizens have joined together and again to advocate the spaying or neutering of pets and community cats on World Spay Day 2015. Whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council hereby recognizes February 24th, 2015 as World Spay Day and encourages the citizens of Nashville to observe that day by having their own pets spayed or neutered, and by sponsoring the spaying or neutering of another person's cat or dog. We would like to honor the Pet Community Center tonight with a presentation, and Ms. Natalie Corwin, President and CEO of Pet Community Center, is here with us today. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Sorry, there she is. We want to present you with this. Thank you very much. We are so honored. And I would like to add, this is signed by every member of the Metro Council. Thank you.
And I know that my two rescue dogs, Hank and Boris, are home watching, so I just want to wave.
Well, thank you so much, members of council, for this tremendous honor and for recognizing the importance of spaying and neutering. Animal welfare and the quality of human life here are closely intertwined. And for example, you can take a human who's afraid to go outside because of stray dogs in their neighborhood, or people that are quarreling over stray cats in their neighborhood. On the plus side, pets bring us companionship and also lots of health benefits, such as lowering hypertension, and not to mention all the joy they bring to our lives. So it's important for us as a community to take responsibility for the animals in our care and make sure that none of them must die unnecessarily. So of course, the old adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is very true when it comes to spaying and neutering. Just a quick example that I'll share with you. In 2013, our organization received some grant funding, and we used that to provide free spay-neuter surgeries for outdoor cats in 2 Davidson County zip codes. And at the end of August 2014, we finished the project, and we've been monitoring data from Metro Animal Care and Control since then. And I'm really thrilled to share with you at the end of December 2014, the number of cats entering the shelter from those 2 zip codes decreased by 60%, 60%. So that's a pretty good result. And throughout the county, cat intake at the shelter is down by 20%. So the residents are reporting fewer strays, and they're embracing a non-lethal way to manage the pet population. So spaying and neutering is working here in Nashville, and I'm as hopeful as I've ever been about animal welfare here in our community, and I really think that Nashville can move to the forefront of animal welfare thanks to the support of Metro Council and the community members who are embracing spay neuter. So spay neuter your pets. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on to the point of election and confirmations on our agenda. Councilman Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee met this evening and considered the following: the reappointment of Ms. Benita Davis to the Metro Action Commission, the reappointment of Ms. Jane Alvis to the Metro Arts Commission, and the appointment of Mr. Mike Kopp to the Nashville Education Community and Arts Television Corporation, recommended approval, 4 in favor, none opposed, and I would move their approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. As I call your name, if you could please stand and remain standing to be recognized by the council. Ms. Bonita Davis, Ms. Jane Alvis, and Mr. Mike Kopp. On behalf of the Metro Council, I would like to thank you for your willingness to serve our city and Davidson County and congratulate you on your appointment tonight. Now we're on to, tonight, just for the sake of a lot of the constituents that have joined us in the chamber tonight, we're going to take BL 2015-1009 out of order. So Councilman Holloman.
First, I'd like to move the amendment.
It's been need committee reports first.
I'm sorry, committee report. Codes Committee, Chairman Dow.
Chairman Dow? Yes. I'm sorry. Chairman Dow?
Okay, so Michael, thank you.
Yes.
The Codes Committee voted to 6 for, and 1 against to approve the amendment. What?
We need to report on the bill as amended also.
And the bill as written was, it failed. It was 5 against, 2 for.
Right, thank you. Councilman Holloman?
Move approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's see, Councilman Garrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a petition here that I would like to make as a part of the record, please.
Sergeant Vars? Councilman Claiborne?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to vote against this bill for basically principal reasons. I'm not one of the greatest of fans of this type of business. I have 6 of these businesses located within 2 miles of each other in the Donaldson area. Advanced Financial is perhaps the least visually intrusive of all of those in terms of the kind of attention-getting displays they put on their windows and whatever. They keep their properties well. As far as I know, there's never been an incident of any type on the property, criminal or otherwise, to my knowledge. It is certainly within our purview to make sure that businesses in the city operate according to certain standards, providing safety and other conditions that are part of our code and planning process. But to me, it reaches a little too far for us as an organization to tell a business when they can and cannot operate. Certainly cutting 6 hours out of the operation day of 24 hours is going to change very little in terms of what this business does. It's not going to affect 1 iota the business that they do. It might affect a certain percentage of the volume of that business, but it will not change anything in terms of what they do. And the loan aspect is only a portion of the services that they provide. And we have been provided multiple testimonies of people who work shifts that prevent them from doing traditional banking and taking advantage of these services as they're going to work or getting off from work in the late or early morning hours of the clock. And so I'm going to vote against this because it targets one business. To my knowledge, there's no other business of this type that operates 24 hours a day. And to try to tell one business, you can't do this
because nobody else is doing it doesn't make sense to me. And I think that's a reach too far for us as a council to tell a business, we're going to legislate you in terms of the hours that you can operate.
Thank you, Councilman Claiborne. Councilman Harleman, my apologies. I should have gone back to you as the sponsor for comments.
I'm going to just wait, and I may ask to speak at the end. I think there's been a lot of work done on this bill outside the floor, and I think we all know where everybody is, so I'm fine to just go ahead and vote. But if people feel like they need to make speeches for the record, I'm certainly going to sit and listen.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Harleman. Councilman Glover.
Call the question.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded for the question. Any discussion? No discussion on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion passes for the question. So we're now back on to the motion to approve. Was the motion made by Councilman Holloman? The amendment first. All right, we have to take the amendment first and then the bill after we take the amendment. So we'll take a vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. Motion passes for the amendment. Now,
this is the amendment that takes out title loan from the application of the bill to be consistent with state law. So this is not the bill itself. This is the amendment to remove title loan.
we have one request for a machine vote. We have two. How many we need?
We need five to have a machine vote.
We have 3, 4.
Okay, we'll have a machine vote on the amendment. This is on the amendment.
Yes, Councilman Maynard.
Thank you. Was the call for the question on the amendment? Because if it was on the amendment, then we're just voting on the amendment.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You have a point of order? Councilman Duvall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be possible for Mr. Cooper to, as the parliamentarian, to give us an explanation as to what this is going to actually do if this is approved? You were talking about changing some definitions, or did I misunderstand what you said?
The bill as filed would restrict the hours of operation of payday lending, check cashing, cash advance, and title loan, those three. This amendment takes out title loan since there's a separate state law that already restricts hours for title loan and a separate preemption on local regulation of title loan. So that would leave only the 2 business types instead of 3 if the amendment passed.
Thank you.
All right, we're now going to have a machine vote on the amendment. Madam Clerk, can you open the machines? We still have one not vote. Oh, there we go. Madam Clerk, can you close the machine and announce the vote?
I have 34, 8 against, 1 abstention.
All right, the amendment passes. We're now back onto the bill as amended. Any discussion on the bill as amended? And there were several in queue. Raise your hand if you want to speak on the bill as amended. All right, Councilman Mitchell?
Yeah, I call for question.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor of calling the question on the bill as amended? Aye. All opposed? No. The question passes.
Now,
we're now voting on the bill as amended. I'll need 5.
We've got it.
We've got 5. All right. Madam Clerk, can you open the machines, please? We're still waiting on 1 council member.
2.
2. All right, Madam Clerk, can you close the machine and announce the vote?
I have 2 for, 35 against, 2 abstentions.
The bill fails. All right.
Now we're back on public hearing.
Please, as you exit the chamber, if you could please leave quietly. Councilman Garrett?
I was just going to say next order, Mr. Chairman.
Next door?
Next order.
Yes, sir. I want to give them a chance to leave before public hearing starts. And we're now moving on to public hearing. First bill that we have on public hearing is Councilman Westerholm and Davis. BL 2014-948 approves amendment number 3 to the 5 Points redevelopment plan. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you. I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Councilman. If you could, please exit quietly and swiftly. If I could, please see a show of hands of anyone in support of this particular amendment. Thank you. If I could see a show of hands for anyone in opposition to this amendment. All right. Would anyone in support like to speak? If you can make your way to the lectern. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sir, my name is Richard McCoy. I live at 125 South 11th Street, Nashville, Tennessee 37206. I'm also the president of the East End Neighborhood Association. I want to thank you all for your time and attention to this matter. During the past calendar year of 2014, MDHA sponsored 4 public meetings from winter and into summer to discuss the 5 Points redevelopment land use plan and the potential amendments to that plan. This process was initiated by business owners and residents who have been lobbying MDHA probably from 3 to 4 years up and to prior to this discussion. Beginning in January, all the properties were on the table at the first meeting, and this was in excess of 500 properties within the district boundaries. By the second and third meetings, that focus had been reduced to about 10 properties for the eventual amendments. The final meeting in July was an informational, and that number had been further reduced to 6 properties in total. These properties were identified during that process as the strongest candidates for being amended and had a unanimous community support. Also during this process, the affected neighborhoods, Edgefield, East End neighborhood, and Laughlin Springs, these are all the neighborhoods that are part of that overlay, continue to discuss these matters and with their residents and councilperson on occasion, and each neighborhood provided recommendations to MDHA for the amendments they felt were appropriate to the eventual bill and the ones that would strengthen the overlay for the remaining 5 years of its existence. The result of this process is what you have before you in the form of Bill 2014-948. The neighborhoods of historic Edgefield, East End, and Laughlin Springs have worked very closely with MDHA over the past 25 years to enforce, participate, amend, when necessary, the guidelines of this overlay. It has not been a stagnant policy during that time. The neighborhoods have invested heavily with their own time volunteering and have taken seriously the tools that were made available by this ordinance to foster positive growth and protection of our neighborhoods as they redeveloped. We urge you to vote in support of this bill so that we can all call it a success when it expires in the year 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Smith, and I'm president of the Laughlin Springs Neighborhood Association, and I want to express our emphatic support for this amendment. We have been a part of the process through the entire system. It has been a series of meetings, many meetings, and letter writing campaigns, and it's a process that we have all been invested in, and we would like to reiterate our support, and we urge you to pass this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Brett Withers. I live at 1113 Granada Avenue.
I'm the immediate past president of the Eastwood neighborhood, which I would like to point out is not immediately affected by the Five Points redevelopment district. It goes through several neighborhoods to the south of ours. And because of that, our board has not taken an official position on this. But I would like to point out that the Five Points redevelopment district created what is today East Nashville. When I was looking to move to East Nashville, I could not afford a house in the Five Points area and moved immediately out and to a surrounding area. And I would just want to point that out, that the health and vitality of this area has benefits for the East Nashville community as a whole, very similar to the way that Hillsborough Village does in West Nashville. And in that guise, it's really important to us that this process be followed. And the process that has been followed has been very democratic, it has been very transparent. And we, as neighboring neighborhoods, stand in support of these neighborhoods that are immediately affected. In my particular case, there are quite a few business owners in the Five Points area who live in my neighborhood, and their livelihoods depend on a lot of the zoning decisions that have been implemented in a steady manner over the course of a few years. So I would urge you on behalf of the larger East Nashville community to support this amendment. It does represent a democratic process that has been followed, and we urge your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Jim Harbison. I'm the Executive Director at MDHA. I represent my board, Mr. Ralph Mosley, Mr. Jimmy Granberry, Mr. Giff Thornton, Ms. Anna Page, Ms. Anita Batts, and Ms. Minima Bashir, and Mr. Melvin Black. As you've heard, we've worked hard at the request of Councilman Westerholm over a year.
Mr. Harbison, please state your address.
Oh, I'm sorry. My address, 213 Woodford Place or 701 South 6th Street. I'm there. That's where the MDHA headquarters is. I'm there more often. So my board asked me just to lay out the facts of the process we followed in the last year. At the request of Councilman Westerholm, about a year ago, we were asked really to address four major questions for this district. Should we make it go longer from the 2020 expiration date? Should we expand the boundaries? Should we change the land use? And should we change the value of the TIF within it? Those are the four major questions you face of any development district. Through a series of meetings, we went through many, many discussions, and in those, some of those are pretty lively. And in this case, we've adopted those we found the general consensus on, and in those areas where we could not find consensus, we've actually stepped aside and, under the rule of do no harm, left it alone. Within that, keeping the district to expire at 2020 is what we believe to be reflective of the general public. Keeping it its present boundaries and with the land use that is before you is what we believe to be the correct approach. And slightly increasing the TIF, although we only have a short period of time, will be of use to several owners that have expressed interest in using TIF for short-term projects like sidewalks or improvement. In all public meetings, we've never had any sentiment to favor ending it short, in other words, closing out before 2020. Most of our discussions went to 2030. I look forward to meeting all you guys. I've been trying to get you over for breakfast. Some of you made it. So I just offer a plug to come on over to MDHA for those councilmen who haven't been over yet. Call Gene. I look forward to meeting you all personally. Please support this bill.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in opposition that would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, Councilman Westerholm?
Thank you. With that, I would move to close the public hearing, and I would ask approval with brief comment.
It's been properly moved and second. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments that have been made by the residents who are here and by Director Harbison. I don't want to rehash too much. I think a lot of that information is before you. I would just echo the facts that this has been a very inclusive process. It has been going on for quite some time. We have tried to have this as open as possible. We think that this represents a broad consensus of the neighborhood through a series of 4 meetings. I think we did come to a good place with this, and with that, I would ask for your approval.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. We're now on the BL 2014-949, sponsors Westerholm and Anthony Davis. This changes 0.242 acres of OR 20 to R6 for properties located at 1103 and 1105 Holly Street. And we can take 950 with that. Same sponsors, Westerholm and Anthony Davis, and this changes .36 acres from OR 20 to R6 for properties located at 1101 and 1103 Shelby Avenue. Councilman Westerholm.
Thank you. I'd like to move these to be deferred indefinitely.
It's been properly moved and seconded for deferral, indefinite deferral. Any discussion on indefinite deferral? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Indefinite deferral passes. Now for BL 2015-1000, sponsors Anthony Davis. This changes .31 acres from RS 7.5 to SP zoning for property located at 1126 Shelton Avenue to permit up to 3 detached residential dwelling units. Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Move to open the public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Councilman. The public hearing is now open. Could I see a show of hands of those in support of this particular bill? Thank you. Could I see a show of hands of those in opposition? Seeing none in opposition, would anyone in support like to speak? Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Councilman Davis?
Thank you. I would move approval.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. BL 2015-1001, sponsors Gilmore, changes 4.74 acres from IR to IG from IR and IG to SP zoning for property located at 1226 2nd Avenue North to permit a mixed-use development. Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is now open. Could I see a show of hands of those in support of this bill? Thank you very much. Could I see a show of hands of those in opposition? Seeing none in opposition, would any in support like to speak? Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I move to close the public hearing and move for approval.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. We're now on to BL 2015-1002, sponsors Potts. This changes 361 acres from R10 to RS10 zoning for properties located along Algonquin Trail, Barella Court, Bart Drive, Benzine Road, Best Court North, Brenda Court, Brenda Lane, Crishaw Court, Cimarron Court, Cimarron Way, Colmont Court, Colmont Drive, Coal Ridge Court, Coal Ridge Drive, Creekside Drive, Darling Drive, Delvin Drive, Emily Court, Hayes, Blackman Loop, Hill Bennett Circle, Jenny Murph Drive, Joanne Court, Karen Ray Court, Karen Ray Drive, Keeley Drive, LeSean Court, Lindy Murph Court, Luker Lane, McLendon Court, McLendon Drive, Ocala Drive, Old Tusculum Road, Olivia Drive, Parker Drive, Panamint Drive, Penny Brink Drive, Richard Irwin Court, Robert Yost Drive, Shacklet Lane Court. I'll take a break. Sheila Drive, Sheeman Court, Sheeman Drive, Shoefield Court, Suzanne Drive, Tamarind Court, Tamarind Road, Towns Drive, Tusculum Court, Tusculum Road, Valley Green Court, Valley Green Drive, and Valley Way. Councilman Potts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry about the mouthful there. You learned some names in my district there. I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Thank you very much, Councilman. The public hearing is now open. Can I see a show of hands of those in support? Thank you very much. Can I see a show of hands of those in opposition? Seeing none in opposition, would any in support like to speak? Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Councilman Potts?
Move approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Council Lady Langster?
I hate to do this, but could you ask the councilman if Barella Drive is included? I heard Barella Court, but I have family on Barella Drive.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Is there a reason for?
Councilman Potts?
Mr. Cooper, is there a reason?
Councilman Potts?
Thank you.
To answer the council lady, that area is zoned a little different. It's RS 7.5, so we didn't consider that area, just kind of keeping the same consistency. So that's why Umbrella Drive wasn't rezoned.
You know they're going to answer. I promise.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. We're now on to BL 2015-1003, sponsor McGuire. This changes 2.36 acres from R40 to SP zoning for property located at 2001 Woodmont Boulevard to permit physical therapy, medical office, and associated uses in the existing building. Councilman McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is now open. Can I see a show of hands of those in support? Thank you very much. Can I see a show of hands of those in opposition? Seeing none, would any in support like to speak? Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Councilman McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move approval.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. Now on to BL 2015-1004. Councilman Bedney is the sponsor. This changes 155 acres from R10 to RS10 zoning for various properties located at Amelia Court, Amelia Drive, Ashline Circle, Ashline Court, Ashline Drive, Ashworth Circle, Ash Grove Drive, Ashmont Circle, Ashmont Drive, Bell Road, Best Court South, Bing Zing Road, Brookview Estates Drive, Brook Drive, Eulalia Drive, Janice Drive, Jerry Court, Josephine Court, Lou Court, Michelle Drive, Ocala Drive, Roxanne Court, Roxanne Drive, Sioux Court, Sioux Drive, Tusculum Road, and Yost Circle. And I don't remember the Vice Mayor ever reading captions this long, but Councilman Bedney.
I hate to do this to you after you read all that, but I would like to ask for a deferral or 2 meetings.
It's been properly moved and seconded for defer. Is it indefinite deferral or
2 meetings.
to the March 2 meeting deferral?
Yes.
All right, it's been moved and seconded for a 2 meeting deferral. Any discussion on deferral? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Deferral passes. We're now on to BL 2015-1005. Council Lady Evans is the sponsor. Changes 0.57 acres from RS40 to SP zoning for property located at 5704 Old Hardin Pike, and to amend a portion of the property previously rezoned located at 6030 B. Sedberry Road to permit up to 4 detached residential units. Council Lady Evans.
I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is now open. Can I see a show of hands of those in support? Thank you very much. And can I see a show of hands of those in opposition? Seeing none, would anyone in support like to speak? Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Council Lady Evans.
And I'd like to move approval.
Do we have a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. Now on to BL 2015-1006, Councilman Banks is the sponsor. This changes 17.58 acres from R40 to SP zoning for various properties located along Church Street East, Valley View Road, and Cloverland Drive to permit up to 78 single-family residential units. Councilman Banks.
I would like to open the public hearing, Chair.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is now open. Can I see a show of hands of those in support? Thank you very much. Can I see a show of hands of those in opposition? Thank you very much. Would anyone in support like to speak? If you do, could you please come up and line up at the lectern? Please state your name and address.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, my name is Tom White. I live at 36 Old Club Court. I represent the applicant in this matter before the council this evening. I want to comment at the front end that I've worked on this project for approximately 15 months. During that same period of time that I worked on as a land use attorney, Roy Dale worked on the project as the engineer. The matter was approved by the Planning Commission on a 4-to-1 vote. I would like to make sure we review somewhat of the history in this project, in that this piece of property, which sits at the intersection of Cloverland and Church Street, is immediately adjacent on one side to an apartment complex where the density is greater than 17 units an acre. When our client first approached this matter, they suggested approximately 300 rental units on the piece of property. There was significant neighborhood opposition. As we came through the process, the planning department, as a staff, recommended disapproval, and the councilman, Brady Banks, would not support the project. At the front end, I want to thank Councilman Banks for his time throughout this matter. He's had, by his own count, 5 neighborhood meetings and probably more than that we're not aware of. But throughout the process, he told us very clearly he was here to represent the majority of his constituents. As another project on this site came along, it was 140 single-family units. When that project was considered, they were single-family, no longer rental, and they were basically attached units. This time, the planning department recommended approval. However, the councilman indicated that he still felt something could be done better on the site, and we continue to work on it. I think throughout the project, my efforts as the land use attorney, Roy Dale as the engineer, and the clients were more than willing to focus in on what could be done on the property. The current proposal is 78 units on this property. It works out to be 4.4 units per acre. They're not only all single family, they are all detached single family. That is 4.4 butting up to against a piece of property that is more than 17 units an acre for multifamily. There are others on the other side that are as low as 2. So we think it clearly is on a very reasonable basis. Although our client was not required to do it, we did a traffic study. Roy Dale will mention what we agreed to do there. There was no environmental report required. We did that as well. That comment is also very clear. There's wet weather conveyance on the property. There's no crayfish. There's no Indiana bats. It's a clean report. We'd respectfully ask that you approve this project tonight. We've come through a long road. We've been at it 15 months. I think the client's been extremely malleable on everything that's been addressed to them, which is why we ultimately secured the support of the councilman in this district. Thank you for your courtesies. We ask you to approve it tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I'm Roy Dale. I reside at 1657 Stokely Lane in Old Hickory. I just want to give you some basic information that I think will be valuable to you as you consider this. This property is within a walkable distance to downtown Brentwood. It's less than 1 mile away. The property fronts on Church Street, which is a 3-lane roadway. There will be no access points onto Cloverland Drive. There's no blue line stream on the side. There are no protected species. I have a report here from environmentalists that I'll give the Sergeant at Arms just so you'll have that on record. We are budding a 250-unit apartment site, and everything around this property has been developed. From a neighborhood perspective, we've had numerous community meetings. We've listened to the concerns of the community, and we've addressed those as best as we could possible. Some of the concerns, the community wanted no attached units. There is no attached unit on this property. It is all single-family detached homes only. There was concern about massing of buildings. There are now height restrictions and massing restrictions. There were concerns about grading and high retaining walls that had been indicated on a prior plan. There's now minimal grading. The homes are custom-built houses. They have to build to conform to the topography, so there'll be no mass grading. There'll be no tall retaining walls. There were concerns about downstream drainage and flooding. There's a drain that runs straight through this property. What will happen when you develop the property is that drain will take a longer route. It'll be routed through detention systems. There will actually be a reduction in flooding or a reduction in runoff as when it leaves this property. And then the density goal of the community that we've been told all along from the beginning was 4 to 5 units per acre, and we're at 4.4 or 4.3. Finally, when you're less than 100 units, you're not even required to do a traffic study. But we knew traffic was a great concern, and I know you've heard a lot about that. And so we asked our traffic engineer to do a traffic study. Normally, when you do a traffic study for single-family homes, you look at about 5 or 6 trips per house. We told him to do a study using 10 or 11 trips. Look at the worst-case scenario. And as a result of that, we've basically committed to do queuing lanes on Cloverland, a dedicated turn lane. We're more than offsetting any kind of increase in traffic. I've asked anybody in the community to contact me. I mean, we're still processing to the council. I'm sure there's still opportunities to make some minor tweaks on this plan if need be. They're welcome to call me or email me, and I'll respond, and I'll do the best that I can. But again, this is a 78-lot, single-family subdivision. It meets the land use policy. It was approved by the Metro Planning Commission, and we ask you to support this plan on second reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other people wishing to speak in support, are you speaking in support?
Support, yes.
If you want to speak in support, please come up and line up at the lectern
My name's Erica Scruggs. I live at 645 Logwood Briar Circle, and I'm in support of this project. I've been to all the neighborhood meetings and planning commissions and have watched this project start from a high-density, mixed-use apartment complex like the other buildings right next to the land. And I have seen it now been tweaked to turn into a single-family residential with high-end homes, which meets all the concerns that the neighbors had voiced in all the previous meetings. So I think this is a great project for the area.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Loretta Shelton. I reside at 552 Church Street East. I'm right in the middle of this. We have lived at Church Street East, what used to be Hardscuffer Road. And one of the councilmen and myself, we changed the name from Hardscuffer Road to Church Street East back in 1972. And his name was Connie Patterson, used to be councilman. Okay, we have lived here since 1968, long before it was known as Church Street East. We have seen the community grow from rural to where it is today. Many new homes and business have been built in the area all around with no opposition. Yes, we have seen traffic increase, but the city addresses the need of the community to accommodate change and progress. We can't stop progress, but when in our neighborhood, I know it's been a lot of subdivision built around us, the 17.5 acres, and there was no opposition. But I don't know what the problem is now. But the homes that will have a value, these homes that's going to be built will have a value of $500,000. They are not cracker boxes and will indeed contribute overall to the home values that's in the area. Right now, we are the only family that lives in a single home on Church Street without the apartments up on the hill. We are the only family left there. Everybody else have moved and gone out or either died. So we are asking you all to approve this.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Shelton. I'm a wife. I think she's covered about everything that needs to be done on my end. But anyway, I would like to say that I've lived there and I've enjoyed in the neighborhood, and I've seen, like she have said, it's been a great, upgrowing, and so we are just there, and so we hoping that this project will be approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I appreciate very much, respectfully, the chance to speak to you tonight here. Much of what I would have said have already been...
Could you please state your name and address?
Don Branham at 5689 Cloverland Drive. And this process has been going on for about 15 months, and I've been involved in it from the very beginning. And I've observed the process very carefully, and I've appreciated very much the way that our councilman, Brother Brady Banks, has patiently listened to all the opposition, and he has incorporated their suggestions and changes into the present plans. And so there's not really a whole lot to say, except that I would respectfully ask you to support this development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, if there's anyone in opposition that would like to speak, I now ask that you all line up at the lectern. Please be sure to state your name and address.
My favorite's the one with the dark hair. She's going to be the first one to speak. Got an organizer. Yeah, it'll be good for her.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Martin. I live at 5680 Cloverland Drive in Brentwood, Tennessee. I'd like to put into record this petition of 407 names, asking the council to please respectfully reject the proposed plan for rezoning of Plum Orchard. We would like this petition to be placed into the record. I'm part of a steering committee that we formed in our community. We'd like to make it known that we are not opposed to development on this property. We certainly feel like that these families should have the ability to sell their land and go on with their lives.
Could you please move the mic? Oh, there you go.
That if it were our property, we feel the same. So we really do feel like that they should have the ability to sell this property and go and have this developed and move on. The community has come together to try to communicate that we are opposed to rezoning the property, not the development. We feel like that the development should fit the zone. Our yards are all quite large. We don't have a lot of green space. All of our green spaces are in our yards. There are around 40 houses there, and we all have more than 1 acre each. Most of us have 1.5, maybe 2 acres. And this property is adjacent to that. So it's our hope that this council committee could look at the details and help this family get this development done with something that's appropriate. So our mantra here is don't change the zone, change the plan, change the development. I'm sure that there is a developer here in Nashville somewhere that can make that fit. There's the houses in Annandale certainly fit that same description, single-family homes on maybe half an acre or whatever. But that's our problem, is the amount of development that's there and the traffic that we all live in every day. So we've done a lot of research, and the rest of my community is here behind me, and I'll let them take over. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Deborah Ham, and I live at 6424 Cloverbrook Drive in the Cloverland Acres community, where I'm past president of our homeowners association. But tonight you can call me Captain Obvious, because I'm here to point out what I think might become pretty obvious to you, and that is the fact that the vast majority of the people in our community are opposed, strongly opposed, to the zoning change and to this particular type of development. I think it's obvious for several reasons. One, the presence being known here in person tonight. Despite our busy lives, we continue to show up at these meetings, planning commission, community meetings, all the ways that we're gathering to try to come to some solutions. We keep coming, we're staying the course, we're staying informed, and we're staying involved. I think it's important, as the previous speaker mentioned, that it's important that you know we're not opposed to all development on this land. All of us are well aware that we love that piece of land. We know it's not going to stay a cute little farm forever. So we are in support of development that would stay within the current zoning. And it was also mentioned that there's a petition which was posted on change.org, and since January the 10th, it has received 407 supporters from this local area, and many, many comments in opposition to this proposal. So I think that's another reason why it's obvious that the residents in this area are opposed to this rezoning. Also, if you've been driving in our area, in our neighborhoods, you might notice a lot of yellow signs streaming by that say opposed to Plum Orchard rezoning. This is one way that our neighbors have found to make sure that it's obvious to you and to the rest of the community that they are not in support of this zoning change. So hopefully that's another way that it's been obvious, and that many of you have, I know, received correspondence by email, letters, phone calls from many of the people in our community. Hopefully you're hearing our voice, and that you will consider not passing this, and that you will reject this proposal. We care about our community. We care about this issue. Thank you for your attention. This is Captain Obvious signing off.
Thank you very much, Captain.
Hi, Amy Greer, 5801 Cloverland Drive, Davidson County. I live about a mile from this proposed development, directly on Cloverland, which Cloverland actually turns into Church Street, so really on the same street that's going to have all these new vehicles dumping out to it. I'm concerned about overdevelopment in the Nashville area and us seeing a boom and bust cycle in real estate. Really Tracks reported in December the number of properties that received foreclosure filings in Davidson County was up year over year and month over month. In November 2014, the sales were down 47% compared to the previous month and 21% compared to a year ago. Obviously, we need additional housing. We've all heard that Nashville's the it city, we're going to grow. I'm not suggesting that we don't grow or develop this property. However, as one of the supporters mentioned, there's only one occupant on the current property. The current zoning allows for 23 units. The current zoning allows for growth. The proposed plan is overdevelopment. We got through the Great Recession a lot better than Phoenix or Florida, but when the next housing downturn hits, people might say, at least we weren't hit as hard as Nashville. The developer has said they've come down from 300 rentals, but that's not the correct baseline. The correct baseline is 23 units, which is the current zoning, and a zoning change to 78 homes more than triples the current zoning. Brady Banks used the term bearable in the January 8th Planning Commission meeting. Bearable should not be the litmus test for if we make zoning changes. We should only consider zoning changes that are good or great. Bearable will not help Nashville become a great city. Anyone who has attended or watched any of the Planning Commission meetings knows that the majority of development is going to small lots or no lots. We need housing diversity, and part of that diversity is large lots. The current zoning gives us that diversity. The proposed zoning does not, because it looks like every other piece of new construction going on out there when it comes to lot sizes. Many professionals are moving to Williamson County. My brother and his wife used to pay taxes in Davidson County. They moved to Williamson County because they wanted a larger lot. If we want Davidson County to be attractive, we've got to leave these R40 zonings or something close to it. If it needs to be changed a little bit, that's fine. But we need to have these large lot zonings in place. I ask that you vote with the residents of Davidson County and for the residents of Davidson County and reject this zoning change. I understand it's desirable to vote with Planning Commission, but they were mistaken on this one, and it's you guys' place to be the checks and balances and do the right thing and vote no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Greer. I live at 5801 Cloverland Drive, Brentwood. I've provided you a summary of what I'm going to speak on, which is the traffic. The traffic is one of the main issues that makes it imperative that you vote no to the Plum Orchard rezoning. At the last Planning Commission meeting, there was some confusion concerning Cloverland Drive, and it sounds like there still is tonight. There's a north-south section of Cloverland Drive. There's also an east-west section of Cloverland Drive that turns into Church Street East. These are physically the same road. The planned development will dump 800-plus vehicles per day directly onto the Cloverland Church thoroughfare. The developer has said all traffic will go to church and not impact Cloverland. This is nonsense, as they're the same street. Traffic is the biggest issue for residents. The Cloverland Church thoroughfare is a parking lot from Maryland Farms to Evanston Pike during the AM and PM commutes. The SP offers no suggestions as how to offset additional east-west loads on the Cloverland Church thoroughfare. The developer's own study estimates an additional 836 vehicles per day due to this development. The Planning Commission was not made aware of the estimate via the planning staff report or the January 8th presentation. The planning staff was not even aware of the traffic estimate until after the SP had been approved by the commission. A proposal for this land was voted down by the Planning Commission in October because of traffic concerns, among other issues. And that proposal had a lower estimate than this one. So let's get this straight. This proposal has more traffic than the one that was voted down. The Planning Commission made a mistake when they approved this proposal, but they did not have as much information as the council does today. Given the better information that the council has, we ask that you vote no on this SP. The developer funded a traffic study that says 800-plus additional vehicles will not be a significant burden. However, this study contains some obvious errors, omissions, and deficiencies. The traffic count was from February of 2014, a year ago. Data collection dates were not documented in the report, making it impossible to verify if this was a typical day or not. The new developments of Lock Haven and Tapestry were excluded from the baseline traffic estimates. The study only looked at a single intersection and did not consider the impact of the larger area that can cause additional blockages to that intersection, reducing its capacity. Conclusions of the traffic study do not pass the litmus test of aligning with common sense. Adding 800-plus vehicles to a road already at capacity without causing additional wait times or congestion issues defies the laws of time and space. Ignoring the current state of traffic on the Cloverland Church thoroughfare violates the Southeast Community Plan. The development also offers no connectivity. And for that reason, we ask that you vote no on this proposal.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Edith Streams. I live at 5617 Cloverland Drive, the north-south portion of Cloverland Drive, which is a parking lot 2 hours a day. I'm here to respectfully request that you deny the petition to rezone the property and reject the plan. To be clear, I welcome responsible development of this property, development that does not require a zoning change. When I look at this plan, a line from a Joni Mitchell song comes to mind. They paved paradise and they put up a parking lot. The current state of the property is not exactly paradise, and yet the parcel does have heavily wooded areas, open fields, numerous mature trees, and a stream that is part of the Mill Creek watershed. These trees and fields are home to considerable wildlife. Any building will likely disrupt their habitat and the ecosystem. However, this plan requires clear cutting and the environmental impact will be devastating. Admittedly, the developers are not proposing a parking lot, but when you look at the number of acres of non-permeable streets, driveways, alleys, they have alleys in this plan, in a rural-ish area, sidewalks and roofs, and then add in the clear cutting, the impact in terms of stormwater handling and lack of green space is not appreciably different than it would be if they were proposing a parking lot. This plan appears to have no dedicated green space other than the area around the stream and for sight lines at the corner This is an urban plan plopped onto a prime parcel zoned for single-family large homes. Maintaining that zoning will help ensure that what is built here, and we expect something to be built here, will fit in, retain at least some of the mature trees, and have adequate amounts of green space. The developer mentions the apartment. What he doesn't mention is the other three sides, which are all large lot, single-family homes. Green space plays a crucial role in stormwater management. It absorbs water, and as far as I can tell, there isn't, and apparently they have done something related to stormwater management, but I was not aware of that until tonight. My concern about stormwater management is also personal. I live downhill from this property. In the flooding of 2010, my neighbors on both sides had flood damage, and I had water in my crawl space. 2010 was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime event. It has proven not to be, as my property floods regularly in heavy rains. A development this densely packed with so much concrete will generate a huge influx of additional water. I'm gravely concerned about the impact the runoff from this parking lot will have on my property and that of my neighbors. In closing, I'm not opposed to developing this land.
Hi, I'm Paul Ryder. I live at 5680 Cloverland, also own 5672 Cloverland. So I'm right across the street from this proposed development. As everybody said, we've been coming to every meeting for the past year to be against the development of that 17 acres and having its zoning changed from R40 to SP. As Amy said, I don't understand why we're not starting with 23 per acre, which is the current zoning, instead of starting up at 350 and working our way down and saying, look what a great job I did. So the people that are for this stand to benefit from it financially. Those are the people that are for it. Everybody else is against it. We are not against no development. We want to see it kept within the zoning. The infrastructure that we have in that area is almost nothing. We have no sidewalks. We have ditches. We have no shoulders. On Cloverland going north and south, it's a parking lot. I can't go to my mailbox without standing in the driveway for 10 minutes waiting for a break in the traffic. When I get out there, if I'm not quick, the traffic stops to let me get my mail. So, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Now you're going to add 78 units across the street and make it even worse. The other thing is that the transition that everybody talks about is the apartments that are the large amount up at the top of the hill come down into the 17 acres and then come across the street to where we live. I have 5 acres. My neighbors have 5 acres. A lot of us have large lots with large old trees. And the creek runs right down through my property. It's great. In a normal non-flood year, it's beautiful. If you're talking now, you're going to use up that water up on the top of the hill in this new development, that's going to dry up my creek bed. So I don't want that. I mean, that's not a big deal, but why did we buy the property in the first place? We wanted 5 acres. We wanted it close to town, a nice rural setting, you know, where people are not being crowded in. And that now is changing, and it's only been 2 years since we bought the house. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ann Kyle, and I live at 5805 Fireside Drive in Brentwood. You know, I'm about just a few blocks from the Cloverland Church intersection, and I drive it every single solitary day. And I haven't been to all the meetings, but I'm very concerned, tax-paying citizen of Davidson County, and I think this would be a very, very bad thing. I would ask that you would say no. These are 2 very narrow streets. They're 2-lane streets. Now, Mr. Dale said something about 3-lane. The only time it's 3 lanes is when you've got your turn lane, when you're getting ready to turn off of Church onto Cloverland. And the Shelton's house, you know, that's you know, right there. But on the other side, you've got, at the top of the hill, you've got the apartment complex. The rest of the homes are regular family homes, and these 2 narrow 2-lane streets that you've got all this traffic that when you go rush hour to and from, bumper to bumper, people sit there for long periods of time. And I love the area. And I think the 23 units would be fine on that. I mean, I understand that they should have their property sold and people should be able to develop, but I just think 78 might be a bit much and would be reconsidered. So I'm going to be brief. Everybody has their chance to talk, but please consider turning this down. It is not a good, our infrastructure is not prepared for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Charles Blackwood. I live at 5650 Cloverland Drive, Brentwood. It's Davidson County, but listed as Brentwood mailing address. At the beginning of this process, I called Brady Banks and had a very frank conversation with him. During that conversation, I asked him whose side he was going to take in this process. And I tried to pressure him into giving me some kind of answer. His answer is that I really didn't understand the situation because there was some highly politically influential people involved in this process. As it unfolded, I came to realize that could be possible. He never mentioned who these influential people are, but you'll have to ask him that. This property, because they've said they've dropped it from 300 units down to 78 units. Well, yeah, they did. But does that mean those were responsible proposals to start with? No. They were clearly not in character with this neighborhood. The present proposal lists 78 units. They also don't mention, they mention there's 4-point-something units per acre. This acreage in itself, if you take and you divide the number of acres by the number of houses, yeah, you get that. But they don't tell you that this has a large swath of water runoff in it, floodplain, and this floodplain detracts from that amount of usable space. So what they've done is that instead of taking in usable land, they've taken and they've shoved it back where it's 20-foot easements off the side of the road. So that puts the housing right up against the street. All these houses in this neighborhood have huge setbacks. My property, which is right down the street, and most of the properties in there, have a 75-foot minimum setback. My house is about 100 foot off the street, which is about average, I would say, for the neighborhood, for all around. So it is not consistent with the neighborhood. Roy Dale, I believe it was, mentioned something about this was in walking distance of Brentwood. Well, it is if you want to walk in the middle of that dangerous traffic going up Church Street. Yeah, there's no sidewalks. As I mentioned, Metro has not done any planning or updating of the issues that are on Church Street because there's water that runs off out of one of the side of the road coming from Brentwood, and it runs in the sidewalk, and they tape it off and put dangerous up there, put placards up so that people don't walk. So how can you get the people who go to school or work across the street? And anyway, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Please, no more outbursts or how to clear the chambers.
My name is Grace Garrow Woolbright, and I live at 5608 Hartstone Lane, Brentwood, Tennessee. And I am nowhere near this subdivision, and I would not be concerned except that I use Cloverland Drive every day. Every day. My daughter goes to school to a nearby at Montessori Academy, so I always have to go through Cloverland. It takes me about 30 minutes to 45 minutes to get through from Cloverland, from Edmondson Pike, all the way to I-65. I live in Davidson County. I live, work, and play here. I moved to Davidson County in 1992, and I lived in the 12 South Belmont area. 2 years ago, my husband and I decided to move because we do not oppose development, but we did want room. And we looked at Brentwood, and it was the burb near the city, and it had everything that we wanted. With this development, it's so big, it's so overwhelming, and it changes everything that we liked about Brentwood. And I think I'm not here to say that I'm here to say that the land should have, that Davidson County should have a little bit more of diversity in the way that you have planning, of zoning planning. And I think in this particular area, there are lots of people that want to move to Davidson County, but they want a little space between them and their neighbors. I know I did, and that's why I moved to Brentwood. And like I said, I work here, and I wanted to live here too. I did not choose the option that almost all of my colleagues do, to move to Williamson County. And I think if you vote for this, you're taking away the choice of some of the people to stay within Davidson County and continue to work and live here.
Thank you very much.
My name is Marion Kainer. I live at 5357 Fredericksburg Way West in the Fredericksburg subdivision, which empties out onto Cloverland Drive. I regularly spend 15 minutes just trying to do a right-hand turn. I spend twice to 3 times as much time on 0.3 miles from that intersection to I-65 than I do driving from I-65 to downtown. I have had to, in the last 2 years, move my time to leave for work half an hour earlier. From 10 years ago, when I first moved into that area, I have now moved my time to leave to work to be at the same time at work downtown, 45 minutes. That is the traffic implication of all the developments. The infrastructure has not kept up, and this just adds to that problem. In 2010, I was flooded because of that creek. I am concerned about the storm water that's going to make it even more likely. Please take our concerns into account and do not rezone. Leave the zoning as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I now declare the public hearing closed. Councilman Banks.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move approval with a brief, a couple words.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Banks.
Thank you to everybody who came out tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces. Even though Charlie Blackwood has been on the opposite side of this one all the way along, I have seen him at every meeting, so that's to be commended. Also appreciate Ms. Scruggs, the Sheltons, of course Mr. Blackwood, the Greers, Ms. Guerra, Ms. Kina, Ms. Martin, Ms. Streams, and others, those who haven't spoken, for coming out. I know y'all probably prefer being with your family and eating dinner tonight, but thank you for participating in the process. As you know, we you've heard a number of the specifics of this property. Back in March of last year, February, March of last year, we began the process with this property. The first proposal was one that introduced 300 plus multifamily units on 17 acres. It was a huge number of units per acre. I knew that it wasn't going to work on this piece of property. We have gone through a number of renditions since then. If I'm not mistaken, it has been 3 others since then, and this proposal has come, with response to the community meetings that we held during this process over the course of the past year. In fact, we even defeated one of the plans at Planning Commission with the help of some of the folks in the crowd. I'm asking for your approval tonight on this particular property because I do think it represents an appropriate transition for this property. Just so you know, right now to the west, and the orientation is west to east, for Church Street going into Cloverland. This property is at the corner, the south or the northwest corner of those 2 streets. As you come from the west, there's an apartment complex. There's commercial if you go into Brentwood, city of Brentwood. Then there's apartments, and then we have a goat farm, and then we move into the rest of the Cloverland corridor. What happens with this, and the question that we've asked, is this an appropriate transition? Does this make sense in terms of what the density needs to be for this particular property? Does it make sense in terms of what the product needs to be for this particular property to represent that kind of transition? Again, we have gone through a number of renditions of this particular proposal on this particular property. I think we have largely incorporated a number of the things that the community has asked of the developer. I will say that if there are some tweaks we can make, I'd like to see if we might be able to do something before 3rd reading to see what those things might be, what we might do there to change a few things with the plan. But I do think the 78 units, which is 4 per acre, does represent a proper transition, and I hope you'll approve it tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Banks. Councilman Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the sponsor, his position on this situation. I also appreciate both the supporters and people that were opposed coming and speaking to the council, Metro Council, because we are the representatives of the tax-paying citizens of this city. For 28 years, I've been politically active in Metro Nashville. For 16 years, I've served on this Metro Council. I think it's important to understand that the infrastructure, city infrastructure, all throughout Davidson County is substandard. This Cloverland Drive is one of the most substandard types of roadways in Davidson County. 78 units is 4 units an acre on 17 acres. When you look at Cloverland acres, that's R40. That's 1 house every acre, or 1/4 of the houses could be duplexes. I think it's important that the developer realize that they understand that they have an obligation to upgrade the roadway infrastructure serving this community. If they want to develop this property, they need to finance the upgrading of this infrastructure. Because I'll let you know that the current administration and the Department of Public Works, they do not look very favorably upon spending tax dollars to upgrade infrastructure, especially infrastructure that is located in the Davidson County area of Metro Nashville and Davidson County. One last thing I'd like to say is that progress and development are not necessarily synonymous. Many developments that I've fought against after having community meetings and meeting with developers and residents, citizens that are going to be impacted, have informed me that they are not going to make the appropriate upgrades or improvements to make a development progressive. To be progressive, it needs to show a benefit for the entire community, not simply the developer. Now, I will not support this tonight, but on third reading, I wish the sponsor can have some type of couple of meetings with the steering committee and with the developer to get them to make some amendments to this plan that's presented before us tonight. I cannot support this at this time, because I'll tell you that the title holders of this property, they can make a profit, a big profit, by the way the property is zoned currently. They do not need to have a rezoning that would allow 4 units an acre when Cloverland Acres, which is right across the street or right next to it, is only 1 unit per acre. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stanley. Councilman Claiborne?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to support the sponsor on this vote tonight, but I want all the folks who have come out here to speak tonight and those that are represented by those 400 plus petition signatures that were presented into the record to know that unless there is some change in the density between what is being proposed now and what will come to us on third reading, and I will not support this on the third reading. So I'm going to give the sponsor the benefit of the doubt when he says we can listen and there's still some things that we might be able to do. When I hear Mr. Dale say I'm willing to listen, and when the steering committee is willing to say we're willing to talk, I think there's more work to be done, and certainly what we've witnessed here tonight does not represent a consensus opinion. So I'm supporting you tonight, Brady, but I will not on third reading unless there's some change to this.
Thank you, Councilman Claiborne. Seeing nobody else in the queue, all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. Bill passes. Thank you. We're now on to consent agenda resolutions. I'll read the resolutions that are on consent agenda, then I'll read the captions, and if there are any that need to be pulled, we'll pull them after the captions are read. Tonight we'll have 1370, 1371, 1372, 1373, 1374, 1375, 1377, 1378, 1379, 1380, 1381, and 1382. The first resolution, Councilman Pridemore is the sponsor. RS 2015-1370 authorizes the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds in an amount not to exceed $261 million. Resolution RS 2015-1371, Councilman Tigert is the sponsor, amends Resolution RS 2013-710 to deauthorize the remainder of capital funding previously allocated for the planning of the AMP Bus Rapid Transit Project. Resolution 2015-1372, sponsors Pridemore, approves an application for a grant from the National Endowment of the Arts to the Metro Arts Commission to create the Thrive Learning Lab. 2015-1373, sponsors Pridemore, Baker, and Leinster, approves a grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Office of Emergency Management for Homeland Security Preparedness Activities. RS 2015-1374, sponsors Evans, Pridemore, and others, authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration to exercise an option to purchase property located at 402 Hathaway Court for use as a park. RS 2015-1375, sponsors Pridemore, Bennett, and Lancaster, approves an application for a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to supplement the Big Band Dance Program at Centennial Park. RS 2015-1377, sponsors Pridemore and Bennett, approves a grant from the Friends of Warner Park to the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation to provide continued funding for staff positions at Warner Park. RS 2015-1378, sponsors Pridemore, Gilmore, and Lancaster, approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Educare, Child Care and Enrichment Center, number 2, to perform activities related to the Project Diabetes Golden Sneaker Initiative Program. RS 2015-1379, sponsors Pridemore and Gilmore, approves Amendment 2 to a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission for personal care, homemaker, and nutrition services. RS 2015-1380, sponsors Pridemore, approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to prepare eligible participants for reentry into the labor force and to offer training to those facing serious barriers to productive employment. RS 2015-1381, sponsors Pridemore and Anthony Davis, approves a grant from the State Department of Environment and Conservation to the Metro Public Works Department to establish a used oil collection site at the Eazell Pike Convenience Center. And finally, RS 2015-1382, sponsors Pridemore, authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury brought by Eva, Lisa Morin, and David Morin against Metro government for the amount of $35,000. Councilman Harmon, is there any that need to be pulled? 1371, so we'll consider 1371 separately. Any others that need to be pulled? Do we need a motion first? Or committee reports? We can go ahead and get committee reports first for these. Budget and Finance, Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Budget and Finance on 2015-1370, 11 approved, 11-4-0 against. 1372, 1373, 1374, 1375, 1377, 1379, 1380, 1381, and 1382. Budget and Finance approved, 12-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. Councilor Gilmore, Health Hospitals.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Pro Tem. Health, Hospitals, and Social Services Committee approved Resolution 2015-1378, Resolution 2015-1379, Resolution 2015-1008.
No, that should be.
No, yeah?
Does she have one? Yeah, you have the ones on consent already.
Okay.
That's it for consent.
Okay.
1378.
And did I give you my 2-4?
Yes.
Okay, and 0 against, and we recommended for approval.
Thank you very much. Councilor Bennett, Parks, Recreation.
Thank you. Parks Committee on 1374 and 1375 voted to approve 4-4-0 against. 1376 approval 4-4.
1376 wasn't on consent.
Okay, sorry.
1377 is
1377 approved 5-4-0 against.
All right, thank you very much, Councilor Bennett. Councilor Weiner, Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. RS 2015-1380, recommended approval 4-4-0 against.
Thank you very much, Council Lady. Councilman Bedney, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Yes, Planning, Zoning, and Historical voted to approve 1374, 740 against.
Thank you.
I think that's the only one I had.
That
right?
is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Councilman Baker, Public Safety.
Thank you. Public Safety approved 1373, 340 against.
Thank you very much. Councilman Anthony Davis, Public Works.
Thank you, Chair. Public Works approved 1381, 540 against.
Thank you very much. And Councilman Harmon.
I would move approval of the consent agenda, please.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on, Councilman Tiger, you had your button pushed. It's not on consent. All right. All in favor? All opposed? Consent agenda passes. We'll now go back to RS. Let's go back to RS 2014-1316. Sponsor Scott Davis. This appropriates $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance to the general fund of the General Services District to Neighborhoods Resource Center to provide funding for its operation. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move
You have a committee report?
I apologize.
Budget Finance.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Budget and Finance, at the request of the sponsor, voted 11-4-0 against withdrawal.
Thank you very much, Councilman Davis.
I'd like to move to withdraw the bill with a brief explanation, Mr. President.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman.
A lot of us have used the Neighborhood Resource Center for codes training and also for neighborhood meetings and also assisting with us when fighting off things that are dangerous to our neighborhood. More importantly right now is we're entering our budget season, and I want all of you to think of all the good things that the Neighborhood Resource Center and all the nonprofits have done for your neighborhood during this time. I'd like to thank my colleagues for their patience and their wisdom, and Mr. President, I'd like to withdraw the bill.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill has been withdrawn. We're now on to RS 2015-1371. Sponsor is Councilman Tigert. Amends resolution RS 2013-710 to deauthorize the remainder of capital funding previously allocated for the planning of the AMP Bus Rapid Transit Project. Councilman Tigert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee report.
Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Budget and Finance voted 12-4-0 against.
Thank you very much, Councilman Tigert.
I would move to approve with a brief explanation.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Council.
Council members and Mr. Chair, there are 4 quick points I want to make to the citizens of Nashville. Number 1, this bill puts to rest once and for all the possibility of the AMP in its proposed form. I want to thank the mayor, Rich, Greg, Marty, for working with me on figuring the logistics out. To the citizens of Nashville, this issue is behind us. We can now all bind together and move forward with a comprehensive plan that makes sense. Council members, what this does is there was about $2.5 million spent on the planning to the AMP to get to this stage. This will remove $4.5 million that would previously have been available, but puts it back into the mayor's hands that if he comes forward or chooses to come forward with a capital spending plan, that money could be used for something more productive. Thirdly, I want to make sure, both for the proponents and the opponents, that everyone realizes that this body, all of us realize that without a better mass transit system, a comprehensive plan, and hopefully a dedicated funding source, Nashville desperately needs that going forward. So this bill will allow $750,000 to be moved over to MTA for a public input, transparent process where hopefully, as Mr. Bland discussed yesterday, 10,000 citizens will participate. And instead of us telling them what the system's going to look like and what our needs are, the citizens of Nashville can come forward and tell us what the system should be. Finally, there's one final component that bothered me throughout this whole process that I should make you aware of. Part of our capital money that's been financed through short-term financing went to pay salaries of employees. And to me, that is a very, very bad practice. The finance director has agreed, and we're going to look in hopefully March or April, whenever it's appropriate for a supplemental budget appropriation, that the money that was spent on salaries of Metro employees in the AMP process planning, we'll pay that off so that we will not burden our taxpayers with 20 years of bonds to pay for salaries that were a recurring one-time expense at that point. So I appreciate Rich working with me, and I appreciate the Budget and Finance unanimous support, and I hope each of you all will then go back to your community and begin advertising the process that the citizens of Nashville can help design our new bus system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tigert. Councilman Glover?
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Just very quickly, Councilman Tigert, thank you for taking the lead on this, for not taking your eye off the ball, and also thanks to the mayor's office, because I think it is important that the citizens of Nashville understand that we have to work collectively to look at what the next plan will be. But thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Seeing no other council members in queue, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. RS 2015-1376, sponsors Primore and Bennett, appropriates $24,999.95 from the reserve for community garden program account to 12 different schools and nonprofit organizations for the purpose of funding community gardens. Councilman Primore.
Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Bennett.
Parks Department. Sorry. Parks Committee approved 4-0 against, 1 not voting.
Thank you. Councilman Primore.
Budget and Finance approved 12-4-0 against, and I move for approval.
Thank you very much. It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tigert.
Thank you. As much as I love school gardens, in the process of full disclosure, I am the treasurer of one of the organizations that will be receiving funds, the Bell Garden at Bellevue Middle School, and my oldest daughter is the president of a PTA, Harpeth Valley Elementary, that is receiving startup money to begin their school garden program, so I need to be recorded as abstaining.
Thank you very much, Councilman Tigert. Seeing no other discussion in queue, all in favor? All opposed? Resolution passes. We're now on to bills on first reading. Are there any bills on first reading that need to be pulled? Councilman Westerholm.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. I would request to pull BL 2015-1017.
Okay. Are there any other bills on first reading that need to be pulled? All right. Seeing no other, we'll go ahead and take the consent on first reading, and then we'll come back to BL 2015-1017. It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? All right, we'll come, bills on first reading pass, and we'll come back to BL 2015-1017. The sponsor is Councilman Tigert, and it's an ordinance repealing ordinance number 089-1011 as amended, and approving the revocation and deletion of the 5 Points redevelopment plan. Councilman Tigert.
Thank you. My good friend, Mr. Westerholm, beat me to the punch. I wanted to pull this for the purpose of deferring indefinitely.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded for indefinite deferral. Any discussion on indefinite deferral? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill is deferred indefinitely. We're now on to, we do have 3 late filed bills. The first of which is Council Lady Dow. Does she have to request? I need to read the caption first. Okay, I'll read the caption and then she could request a suspension of the rules. Changes 291 acres from AR2A and SCR to SP zoning for properties located at 3135 and 3185 Old Franklin Road, 5570 and 5580 Cane Ridge Road, and Cane Ridge Road unnumbered to permit a mixed-use development. Council Lady Dow, you want to?
Yes, I want to request a suspension of the rules, and I can give a brief explanation.
You want to let us know the?
Sure. There should be a letter in each one of your packets that explain in a little detail, but we actually have, it's 2 bills together. We want them to track together, and we want to have the public hearing the first week of March. So that's the urgency of it.
Okay. Is there any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilor Dow, you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. Councilman Stites amends the Metro zoning code pertaining to the conditions applicable to boat storage facilities. Councilman Stites, the nature of the emergency?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This was submitted on Monday. The deadline was actually Friday, although the website said Tuesday at the time. And in order to track with some other bills before planning that'll be coming, I need to get it introduced tonight.
All right. Any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilman Stites will entertain a motion.
Move, please.
Second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. And Council Lady Gilmore abandons easement rights within a portion of 11th Avenue South right-of-way between Laurel Street and the north right-of-way margin of Pine Street and 11th Avenue South between the south right-of-way margin of Pine Street and 12th Avenue South, and also abandoning the easement rights within a portion of 11th and 12th Avenue South. Councilor Gilmore, the nature of the emergency?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The urgency for this late ordinance is so that the construction of the Gulch Hotel project can commence. In order to meet the project schedule, it is necessary that the ordinance be approved on first reading, which is tonight, and so therefore I request the suspension of the rules.
All right, is there any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilor Lady Gilmore will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. We're now on to bills on second reading. The first is substitute bill number BL 2014-909, sponsors Allen, Tigard, and others, and this amends the Metro zoning code pertaining to short-term rental property. Council Lady Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Can we take 951 with
Together.
that? Also sponsored by Council Lady Allen, Tigard, and others. This amends Chapter 6.28 of the Metro Code pertaining to short-term rental property. And
Thank you.
Council Lady Allen?
Yes, there is an amendment I would like to move, please.
Been properly moved and seconded for the amendment.
Committee reports.
The committee reports. And we have planning and zoning, which is Councilman. Okay, on the second, on 951. Councilor Dow on 951, committee reports.
Thank you. Codes voted, Codes Fair and Farmers Market Committee voted to approve, 7-4 and 0 against.
All right, thank you. And Convention Tourism, Councilman Banks on 951.
Convention and Tourism approved 951, 6-4, 0 against.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Allen, you want to renew your motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the amendment with a brief explanation, please.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Amendment passes. Councilor Allen, back to you.
I did promise Councilmember Banks that I would explain the amendment, so I'll do that real briefly if that's okay. The amendment simply adds some language requested by the Codes Department to be consistent with the state fire marshal requirements on fire safety, and also added specifically some language about revoking permits and requiring a waiting permit to reapply for a permit. So that's the amendment.
Okay.
With that, I would like to move approval for the bills with a brief explanation.
Okay. There's a motion to move the bill as amended. Go ahead, Councilor Allen.
Brief explanation, just y'all have been hearing about this bill for a while now. What it does is simply define what short-term rental is. It's a new phenomenon that sort of snuck up on Nashville, and our code is fairly ambiguous about it. As a result, there are about 1,000 of these properties that our code more or less says they seem to be fine because it doesn't say they're not fine. So in order to clear up that ambiguity and to make clear how we want to deal with this new phenomenon, we have worked hard to have 3 public meetings, a long and extensive public hearing that you probably remember on election night. I've met with many departments. I have met with many short-term rental owners and also with neighborhood groups and have revised along the way. We've studied what other cities cities have done. It's new, and many other cities have just passed laws as well. As a result of that process, we've come up with a bill that I think is fair, as simple as you can be, and it's enforceable. It defines that a short-term rental is simply a property that's rented for less than 30 days. It would allow it to be used as an accessory use. It prohibits the use of signs. It limits the numbers of bedrooms and occupants. It limits the number of how many non-owner occupied ones there can be in any different census tract, and it also requires some insurance and fire protection. And it states that hotel and motel taxes would be paid. Not as part of this bill, but we hope somewhere farther down the line we can connect the payment of those taxes to hopefully some funding of the Barnes Affordable Housing Fund. I believe this is a good phenomenon for Nashville. It has filled a need. Our hotels can't be built fast enough. People love to come to Nashville, and this is another way for them to stay in our neighborhoods. When they stay in our neighborhoods, they spend money in our local commercial districts. They get to see another part of Nashville. They spread some of the prosperity beyond downtown, which I think appeals to everyone. I appreciate all the help that I've gotten from Bill Herbert, from John Cooper, from Terry Cobb, many other people in Metro departments, from the many short-term rental property committees owners who have met with me, from the many neighborhood groups that have expressed their concerns and worked with me to try to get comfortable with ways that we can make sure that this is a good neighbor in neighborhoods. With that, would like to ask for your approval for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Allen. Councilman Bedney?
Yes, thank you. When we started discussing this, I had some concerns about the impact this might have on overcrowding in some parts of Nashville. But in reaching out to the sponsor and our lawyer, it became very clear that this legislation won't apply when there is an HOA or rule that prevents this from happening. So that really put me at ease in terms of the concerns I had about it. So thanks for that. My other concern had to do with having enough staff to enforce this. And today, Cobb told me that they had enough staff, but I will encourage us to, as we look through the budget, to make sure that we have adequate staffing through all our departments so we can enforce all these rules we're making. So I'm going to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bedney. Councilman Scott Davis.
I just want to congratulate the sponsor on the hard work and the many meetings that she has had and working with the department and the other sponsors. And I also want to pledge my support in the future to hopefully get some sort of funding for the Barnes Fund through other forms of legislation dealing with this. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Councilman Duvall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just questioned the amendment that was attached regarding the fire protection. Could you define that or explain what that means?
Councilor Allen, you want to?
Yes, there were two things were at play here. First, we had put some very specific language in about smoke detectors, and the fire marshal is currently reviewing this and may have other requirements, and I didn't want our legislation to be confusing and make it sound like everything was taken care of and you didn't have to pay attention to the state fire marshal's requirements. I believe we are very close to a resolution on that and that they will line up, but I just didn't want to create the possibility for confusion.
Well, my concern was surprise to these property owners. All of a sudden, they've got to stick sprinkler systems inside all of these homes and start trying to retrofit them. And I do not believe that would be the spirit of this ordinance.
That is a true statement. My understanding is that the state fire marshal has been discussing the possibility of sprinklers in all short-term rentals. There have been a number of discussions among code officials from across the state saying that perhaps that would not be appropriate for the smaller ones. It certainly may make sense for a very large facility, but for something that is residential in nature, that does not seem appropriate. And if I understand Mr. Cobb correctly, would even require us to pass more extensive laws allowing that to happen. And therefore, they've worked very hard to try to figure out where a threshold might be, and I believe that that threshold will be close to or above where we are so that it would not apply to most of the ones that we're looking at.
So we're looking at something in the 4,000 square feet range or 3,500 square foot range might have to retrofit?
They are not looking at square footage, they're looking at occupants, number of occupants allowed. And we have a limit on the number of occupants so that if our thresholds are the same, then we're good to go. If not, then we'll make sure that the very large ones are aware of that requirement.
Excellent answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Duvall and Councilor Allen. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. You know, as I've said all along with this bill, and I'm going to support it tonight, but as I said all along, I think that we're setting double standards because there's a lot of small businesses out there that don't operate as a bed and breakfast or whatever, but they operate nonetheless. And this body has said, no, you can't do that. And so I think we're going to have some work that we do in the future, and I think it's important that we do realize that there are businesses that are trying to conduct themselves in a legal manner as well. So like I said, I'm going to support it tonight. I do appreciate your work, but I think we may have opened up a can of worms here that I'm not sure that we wanted to get into, but perhaps we had to. Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I just wanted to rise and publicly thank Councilmember Allen. She's my seatmate, and she has worked extremely hard, very hard. And not only that, you got much accomplished. And we went to the National League of Cities. We know that this is a big issue, and you have put us on the forefront, and you were able to accomplish something with a system that was not in place. You created that, and you helped many of meetings and got plenty of buy-in. And I just want to commend you publicly. You've done a wonderful job. And even when people came for that very long public hearing, no one could not say that you did your due diligence. So I just appreciate you, and I appreciate the hard work. I think sometimes people don't see that if they're not an elected official. We still get paid the same amount no matter how much work we put into it, and you've done an awesome job. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for putting the city of Nashville forward with this legislation.
Thank you, Councilor Gilmore, and I agree too. Councilman Tenpenny.
Thank you, Chair. The sponsor really did put her best foot forward on this, and I think she has really done a good job and tried her best to cover every base. My problem is, though, with tonight, we're going to do this fire marshal thing later, but we're going to pass this legislation on second reading tonight. I think all of that should be into the bill before we pass this. We talk about we may get the hotel motel tax with these, or we may not. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'm not comfortable passing this bill until we get the hotel motel tax in with these bed and breakfast or air, you know, the air.
B&Bs.
The B&B, the Airbnb. So it's just hard to support this tonight with still those lingering things going on, and they do concern me. So at this point in time, I don't think I can sponsor the bill tonight. I just can't. There's too many loose ends still left out there. I do appreciate what you've done, Berkeley. You've done a really great job in doing this, but there's still too many things out there to look at.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Allen.
If I might respond, I'd like to address those concerns. First of all, with regard to the taxes, that is a decision that has already been made by the legal department, that those taxes are owed. All this bill does is simply state that those are owed, and we will also be creating a website where hopefully people who have been confused for the past year can now go, and it will say, here's what you need to do. Here are websites that you can go to that explain exactly how to do that. So I think that will make things much clearer than they have been, which has been, I think, a concern for the past at least 6 months or a year or so. And as far as the fire marshal issue goes, you may remember that I have deferred this several times, and that has been waiting for this process to take place. I have worked very closely with Mr. Terry Cobb. Actually, he's done all the work. Again, as I said, meeting with code officials all across the state, just trying to figure out how in the world the state of Tennessee wants to deal with this. They've had some very good, very technical meetings where they have spoken code language to each other and more or less said, we think we can come to an agreement here. They're not totally through with that process, but I did get the go-ahead from Mr. Solomon in legal and from Mr. Cobb that they felt comfortable enough that we could move forward at this point. If we need to make adjustments, then we can do that, but I don't feel that that's going to be necessary with the language that we've put in tonight.
Thank you very much, Councilor Allen. Seeing no other council members in queue, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. BL 2014-989, sponsor Scott Davis, changes .42 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1219 and 1221 North Fifth Street to permit up to 7 dwelling units. Councilman Davis?
I'd like to move for a one-meeting deferral, please, Mr. President.
Does he need committee reports? You have a couple, well, one committee report.
I apologize. Committee report, please.
Councilman Bedney?
The Planning and Zoning Historical decided to support that, 7-4-0 against.
Support deferral?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Councilman Davis?
Yes, I'd like to move for a one-meeting deferral, please.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded for a one-meeting deferral. Please exit quietly. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill is deferred. BL 2014-992, sponsors Councilor Gilmore, amends the Metro Code pertaining to noise from construction sites. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pro Tem, committee reports, please.
Councilor Dow, Codes Committee.
Codes Fair and Farmers Market voted to defer indefinitely, 7-4-0 against.
All right, thank you. Councilor Gilmore.
I wanted to defer indefinitely with a brief explanation.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Council Lady.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. A lot of times people come to us and they ask us how are bills formed. We always say constituents can bring them forward, we can lead them, or it can be done executively. I bring this forward because around September, I received a lot of complaints about noise, and noise was happening at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. There was blasting. We couldn't quite figure out what was going on, so I called Bill Herbert, and I realized that the downtown, the Midtown area, and Sobro were not a part of the regular zoning that the rest of the city was. So you could do construction anytime in those particular areas, 24 hours, blasting, drilling, and hammering. So we moved forward and we saw some things that we could do. And so we worked with John Cooper, which I appreciate greatly. I think we just don't appreciate you enough. And I also worked with Doug Sloan and Terry Cobb. And so we had some meetings publicly. We formed a steering committee. The neighbors came out, and the people downtown as well, and so we came up with some solutions. So at this time, we felt like, along with the developers, that there's no need to handle this legislatively, but we're still working on the language and the spirit if we handle this administratively. So I think we're almost there. We're not quite where we need to be. So I'm going to defer this indefinitely, but I do want to appreciate and thank publicly all those people that participated, because it was a lot of work that went into this.
Oh, thank you very much, Councilor Gilmore. Seeing no other council members in queue, all in favor? All opposed? Indefinite deferral passes. So we're on the BL 2015-1007, sponsors Primore Weiner and others, amends the Metro Code to ensure Metro's pension plan is in compliance with federal tax laws. Councilman Primore.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Committee reports, please.
Councilor Weiner.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. BL 2015-1007 was recommended, 4-4-0 against.
Thank you very much, Councilman Primore.
Budget and Finance approved, 12-4-0 against. Move for approval.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. BL 2015-1008, sponsors Bennett, Weiner, and others, amends the Metro Code pertaining to outdoor pet tethering. Council Lady Bennett.
Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Gilmore.
Yes, 2-4-0 against from Health Hospitals Committee.
All right. Thank you very much, Council Lady. Council Lady Bennett.
I need to move the amendment, please.
Second. So, properly moved and seconded for the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment?
Can I explain it real quick?
You sure can. Go right ahead.
The only change is we're adding harnesses. where it says collar, we're also adding harness, so they can use a harness system. And that was suggested by Councilmember Tenpenny.
Okay, thank you. Is he? Oh. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? All opposed? Amendment passes. We're now back on the bill as amended.
I'd like to move it as amended, please.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Bill passes. Bill 2015-1009, sponsors Holloman. We've already taken 1009. I'm sorry about that. Bill 2015-1011, sponsors Moore, Pridemore, and Hunt, approves a lease agreement between Metro Government and STEM Preparatory Academy. Council Lady Moore.
Committee reports, please.
You have Councilman Pridemore.
Budget and Finance voted approval, 12-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. Councilman Bedney.
Planning, Zoning, and Historical approved, 7-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. Council Lady Moore.
And the Education Committee approves 7-4-0 against, and I move for approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Bill passes. BL 2015-1012, sponsors Pridemore, Anthony Davis, and Hunt, abandons 90 linear feet of existing sewer easement and retains a portion of the existing sewer easement for property located at 627 Gallatin Pike. Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Committee reports.
Thank you very much. Councilman Anthony Davis.
Thank you. Public Works approved, 5-4-0 against.
And Councilman Bedney.
Yes, thank you. Planning, Zoning, and Historical approved, 7-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. Councilman Pridemore.
I move for approval.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Bill passes. BL 2015-1013, sponsors Anthony Davis and Hunt, abandons 230 linear feet of an 8-inch sanitary sewer line and easement, accepts 1,215 linear feet of 8-inch PVC sanitary sewer, 1,074 linear feet of 8-inch DIP water main, and 369 linear feet of 4-inch water main for properties located at 1804 and 1808 Gray Bar Lane, 3505 Hopkins Street, and 1919 and 1921 Woodmont Boulevard. Councilman Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Committee report.
Councilman Bedney.
Yes, thank you. Planning, Zoning, and Historical approved it, 7-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. Councilman Davis.
Public Works approved, 5-4-0 against, and I would move approval.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. Bill 2015-1014, Councilman Pridemore and Anthony Davis are the sponsors, approves a participation agreement between Metro Water Services and Vanderbilt University for public water services improvements associated with Vanderbilt's proposed construction located along 19th Avenue South. Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Public Works approved, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. Councilman Pridemore.
Budget and Finance approved, 12-4-0 against. Move for approval.
Thank you very much. It's been properly moved. Do I have a second? Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Bill passes. We're now to bills on third reading. BL 2014-896, sponsor Councilman Scott Davis, changes 238.26 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for various properties located along Arlington Street, Berry Street, Cleveland Street, Douglas Avenue, Evanston Avenue, Joseph Street, Lichey Avenue, Meriden Street, Montgomery Avenue, North 2nd Street, North 5th Street, North 6th Street, North 7th Street, North 8th Street, Pinnock Avenue, Richardson Avenue, Steinbach Avenue, Stockwell Street, Trutland Avenue, Vault Street, and Vernon Winfrey Avenue to allow detached accessory dwelling units for all other standards of the RS5 district. Councilman Scott Davis. You have a...
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to call for committee report, please.
Councilman Bedney.
Yes, thank you. On this legislation, Planning, Zoning, and Historical approved 4 for, 2 against, and 1 abstain.
Thank you very much. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
You have an amendment.
I apologize. I'd like to move the amendment first.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded for the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Amendment passes. Councilman Davis?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move the bill for approval with the amendment.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded for the bill as amended. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Councilman Claiborne? I'm sorry. Councilman Davis, did you have any comments before?
Yes.
Go ahead.
After several neighborhood association meetings where this was talked about at length for the last 3 years, and after one public meeting at the East Precinct during the month of October or November, and then 2 additional public meetings the Saturday before the MLK holiday, and also a Wednesday the week afterwards. We had 2 meetings. At the Saturday meeting, we had over 30 people show up, and we took roll. At the previous one at the East Precinct, we didn't take roll. However, though, over 20 people showed up there because at the police precinct, you're on camera. Also, at the next meeting on the Wednesday, even though it was a church night, we had close to 13 people show up. And not counting the many doors knocked on and the many household meetings that we had at individual homes. My district, if some of you can remember, and Mr. Garrett, I'm not picking on you, in 2003, my neighborhood was R6 zoning. I am the only district that is in the urban core that is zoned RS, which is traditionally a suburban zoning. I may have the dates wrong, so forgive me. In April of last year, I believe, we had a bill come before this chamber where DADUs, detached accessory dwellings, would be allowed in the residential zoning. However, though, some of my colleagues who have RS zoning did not want it, and I respected that and I understood that because they don't have the alley access that my district does. Being that my district is so close to downtown and having alley access everywhere within the McFerrin and Cleveland Park areas, and a stone's throw from the convention center, the Titan Stadium, and all our great downtown events. My neighbors wanted it and didn't really understand at the time that we were zoned RS, which is residential single family, and not the R that my brothers over here may have for their zoning being so close to downtown, and the other folks that live in, Councilor Gilmore's district and everywhere else in the urban core. And so this was to allow those people who wanted to do an in-law suite, which is done, the homeowner must live on the property. This is not a bill for a home builder or a developer, but for the citizen that lives there. And as we recall, the bill makes you sign a covenant that allows you to do this on your property, but you cannot sell the attached dwelling separate from the home. And I'd like to move this for approval, and I respect everybody's wishes and their opinions, but please vote for this. We've worked long and hard on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Councilman Claiborne, did you?
Yes, and I respect all the work that the councilman's done on this, but I was opposed to this concept when it was first introduced, as he mentioned, to be countywide. I think it is the wrong use of the SP zoning category to rezone residential properties. In 2007, I had a large parcel of undeveloped land that was developed by my predecessor, about 137 acres, as an SP. 2008, Councilman Stanley over here developed some primarily undeveloped property, about 185 acres, and tonight we've taken a motion to begin a redevelopment or rezoning of some undeveloped land in Council Lady Dowell's district as an SP. SP was designed to address specific parcels of land that had unique characteristics and needed specific guidelines for the development of those areas and could control that development. We have tonight upzoned 3 large neighborhoods from R to RS. So there is a reverse process to go from RS to R. And if this neighborhood was overwhelmingly in favor of being able to have multiple dwellings on their piece of property, then to rezone this entire neighborhood, these 200-plus acres, to R would have been the appropriate way to do that. So I'm opposing this, as I have from the very beginning, that this is a misuse of the SP zoning, the purpose for which the SP zoning category was initially conceived and put into place.
Thank you very much, Councilman Claiborne. Any other council members wishing to speak? We'll need a machine vote since we have a no vote. So, Madam Clerk, can you open the machines? Madam Clerk, can you close the machines and announce the vote?
I have 29 for, 6 against, no abstentions.
Bill passes. Now on to BL 2015-998, sponsors Holloman, amends the geographic information system street and alley centerline layer by abandoning portions of Park Avenue, Elkins Avenue, alley number 1198, and alley number 1199, right-of-way and easement. Councilman Holloman.
All committee reports being in, I move approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Tiger.
I want to commend Councilman Holloman for his hard work on this bill and consensus building.
Could you repeat that?
Thank you very much. All in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. Bill 2015-999, sponsors Baker, Anthony Davis, and Hunt, abandons a portion of the easement rights within a portion of the former alley number 1517 for property located south of 525 Stevenson Street. Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Move approval.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Bill passes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, and we're adjourned.